What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through the ultimate guide to the upcoming Game Week 2. So Game Week 1 has concluded. We had that United vs Wolves game on Monday. Not that exciting of a game, but hopefully an exciting game week for you guys, and hopefully you guys got all the points that you wanted. Now because we're only on Game Week 2 of the season, Game Week 1 we've just set up our new squads, Game Week 2 should be pretty straightforward, but don't worry, I'll be going over all the talking points that might make this quite an interesting game week. I'll be going over what to do with Gabriel, when to bring in James Maddison, who's the best captain for the upcoming game week, and what fixtures look pretty strong for Game Week 2. Now as always, if you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments down below. I reply to every comment, so don't worry, your comment will be replied to, and there's no bad questions in terms of FPL. Now if you guys don't want to ask them in the YouTube comments, you can always reach out to me on my Discord server. It's the second link in the description. But let's get back to this ultimate guide. It's going to be quite an exciting one and hopefully quite a good game week. So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now if you guys are kind of new to these ultimate guides, maybe new to my channel this season, what I always do in these ultimate guides is I go over the stats of the best teams in terms of attack and defense. Now I should have put this out there that yes, we only have one game week of data, so please don't look into this too much. This will be more of a reaction of game week 1, and some teams have better or worse fixtures. So let's go over the attacking stats first, and you guys know I like to use XG non-penalty. What this is XG minus the penalties, because a penalty has a very high XG as the attacker is more likely to score. Now penalties aren't that consistent, but if you guys do want to go over some player kind of stats, you can always look at the penalty version, as then you're looking at penalty takers. So let's go over the XG non-penalty of the top 6 sides from Game Week 1. The number 1 team was a little bit of a surprise for me. It was actually Newcastle with 3.45. Now the reason it was a surprise is they were obviously playing Aston Villa, a side that last season were pretty defensively strong, but Newcastle's attack is pretty decent. So therefore you'll be targeting these Newcastle assets when the fixtures do improve. Probably won't go for Isaac in Game Week 2 because they do face Man City fairly shortly. Other than that though, the standard fixture Brighton vs Luton proved to be quite fruitful as they got an XG non-penalty of 3.4. Now surprise entry here was actually going to be Everton with about 2.7 XG. That basically means that their strikers couldn't finish their dinner at all, because with 2.7 XG and scoring no goals, that's pretty terrible. So if you guys do go for an Everton attacker, that's quite unlucky, but don't even know if they're going to continue this trend. Then the next couple of teams, Man City, Chelsea and Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace one was quite interesting for me. I know Sheffield United aren't a great team, but a lot of people want to sell an Eze, but his stats in this game were actually pretty decent. So maybe hold on to him for the time being. Maybe Crystal Palace will improve from an attacking point of view, but the fixtures might not be as easy as the Sheffield United one. Now we're going to go on to the defensive stats. I covered the attacking stats first because they're more exciting, but in terms of the defensive numbers, the usual suspects, Man City are going to be top. It's about 0.5 XG conceded in their first game against Burnley. That's pretty expected though. They're a great defense. Burnley's attack isn't that strong. Just super hard to predict which Man City defenders are going to start. Then we have my team, Crystal Palace own Johnston between the sticks, and I see these XG conceded was pretty decent, but as mentioned, they had a pretty easy fixture. Nottingham Forest though was the interesting one because they obviously faced Arsenal. Arsenal also appear here in kind of the 5th best defense, but the Nottingham Forest XG was actually super good. Now this might be down to the fact that Arsenal kind of scored quite early on. They were comfortable to kind of maybe sit back because they were winning, but this is why I'm perfectly fine playing Turner in Game Week 2. Then we have West Ham and Chelsea completing the top, which is quite impressive because Chelsea also faced Liverpool, and they actually dominated that game, especially in the second half. So big takeaways here, Arsenal still looking pretty decent, but the Nottingham Forest team, this is why I'm fine actually starting Turner. But as mentioned, please don't look into these stats too much. These teams usually had easier fixtures. It's only based on 1 week of data, so many conclusions can be drawn. Now the next talking point I want to go over might be not applicable to all of you, well at least I hope it's not applicable to all of you. It's the wildcard, and should you do it in Game Week 2. Now I would heavily advise not to wildcard in Game Week 2 unless your Game Week 1 squad was an absolute disaster. Maybe you had Kevin De Bruyne, you had all the injured players in your Game Week 1 team, then I can maybe understand it. The reason I'm saying this is that I think that you guys can get away with potentially even taking a -4 and -8 hit to repair that team instead of wildcarding. This season is pretty kind of standard. Think that we won't get too many blanks, too many doubles, so I would hold on to that wildcard for as long as possible, or at least do better fixture changes. That's why if you guys can maybe use one free transfer, fix up the team for Game Week 2, then Game Week 3 use the wildcard, because then Chelsea have that nice fixture run, then you can jump on some better players. Game Week 2 is a little bit of a kind of iffy area. I probably wouldn't wildcard this week, so prolong it as much as possible. Now what I would suggest, if you guys are considering using the wildcard, comment down below what your team is currently looking like, or send me a screenshot over on Discord, because I think this is a very unique scenario, and that's why I didn't create a wildcard draft this week, because I actually don't think that you guys should be using it. I just want to reach out because I have seen some Discord comments as well as some Twitter DMs asking me to make a wildcard draft, but I think this is for kind of the minority. Another talking point and another team to talk about is going to be Man City. Now, I'm actually recording this before the Super Cup game tonight. Man City take on Sevilla, so if any injuries happen in that game, I'm not really prepared for them in this ultimate guide. So just keep that in mind. So besides the first reminder of the kind of Europa Super Cup tonight, let's just hope that Erling Haaland comes out kind of injury free because he's my captain for this game week. Other than that, I don't really own any other Man City assets. But there's been some big news this week, and it's going to be for KDB or Kevin De Bruyne. Unfortunately, he's dropped in price, but that's not the biggest news out of Kevin De Bruyne. It's the fact that he's had surgery and he's going to be out for quite a long time. So if you guys do own Kevin De Bruyne, I would probably try and upgrade him to either Salah or downgrade him to James Maddison. Those two players are my favorite combinations, but I've already seen many people with KDB in their teams. Now, the two players that this obviously does come into account for is going to be Phil Foden and Alvarez. So both these two options are potential replacements for Kevin De Bruyne in that lineup, and therefore the expected minutes have just gone up. So if you guys have Phil Foden, do have Alvarez, I definitely keep them in my team, just see what Pep's going to do, because now there's one less attacker in that lineup. Now, I can't really recommend either of those. I think both of them should be fine. It's going to be tough to say who's going to play in that midfielder slot. They might even change the formation, play two up front with an Alvarez, or drop Phil Foden into midfield. But what I would probably say is they are hold for now. I wouldn't probably buy them at the current moment. There's better FPL options with better expected minutes. But if you do have them in your team, simply just keep them. But other than that, if you guys do own Kevin De Bruyne, as mentioned, try get the funds from Mo Salah, captain him against Bournemouth, that's a great fixture, or downgrade him to Maddison from Spurs. Now the next option is going to be an Arsenal player, and it's going to be specifically Gabriel at 5.0 million. He might actually drop in price this week if you guys are kind of aware of that. But I think if you guys do own him, I would just keep him. The reason for this, obviously, Timber has had that long-term injury. Looks like it might be a knee injury, but I might be wrong there. But he is going to be out for a number of weeks. So if you guys don't know, Gabriel was actually benched in game week 1. I don't really know the specific reason. It seemed like Thomas Partey was playing right back, which is quite unique, as Gabriel played basically every minute last season. So some people have been saying this might be a disciplinary issue, but I don't exactly know the extent of that. But all I know is that Gabriel should be back in the lineup against Crystal Palace. So if you guys do have Gabriel, I probably would just keep him. The only scenario that I would transfer Gabriel out is that if you guys don't own Ben Chilwell, as he just seems like FPL gold this season. So just to repeat that, if you guys have Gabriel, just keep him in your team. I think that he should be fine. The Arsenal fixtures are still looking pretty decent, and the defense usually is quite strong. But if you guys don't own the Chelsea fullback Ben Chilwell specifically, I'd make this switch as soon as possible. Now, if you guys do want to make a Maverick switch, you can always go for someone like a Reece James. I was potentially looking at a SALAH to Reece James for game week 2, and I'm actually still pondering that transfer. So the safe move is to just keep Gabriel or move him to Ben Chilwell. Otherwise, the Maverick move is to take him to Reece James. I just feel like those two Chelsea defenders are simply FPL gold if they're going to stay nailed, but we are slightly worried about Reece James's fitness. Now the next option I want to talk about is going to be James Maddison, because I spoke about him in my transfer plan and he seems to be rising in popularity and might even have a price rise fairly shortly. Now my current thinking on James Maddison is I think that he's a great FPL asset, a great player as well. I just feel like I'm willing to give him game week 2 against United at home, just see how that lineup's going to be, just see how James Maddison kind of plays, because the other players in my team have better fixtures. Those two options at the current moment are going to be Martinelli as well as Bruno, and you probably have the same options in your team. Now Martinelli has Crystal Palace away, but then Fulham at home, and that Fulham at home game is going to be absolute gold. The problem is though that James Maddison does have Bournemouth away, but I think I might favour Martinelli with that home game. We then have Bruno in game week 2 is actually facing James Maddison, but in game week 3 he has Nottingham Forest at home. So it almost seems like game week 4 might be the week to do the switch, as then Arsenal are playing United and Maddison has Burnley away. But for the time being, I'm willing to give him game week 2. I just want to see how Spurs continue this form, and I'm willing to be patient with my other assets. Now you might be asking me why am I actually looking at James Maddison. Well, now let's look at expected points. This will be their expected points in game week 1, and as you guys can see, James Maddison was off the charts. So compare that kind of 7.1 to 2.8 from Martinelli and 3.3 from Bruno, he simply wipes the floor with them. So from an FPL point of view, expected minutes might be lower for Martinelli versus Maddison, and he is getting a lot more forward than Bruno is. So just keep that in mind when you are considering your future moves. I've left 1.0 million in the bank, so I can do this move even if he rises in price. Now the second last section of this video, I'll be going over the best attacking and defensive fixtures from game week 2, just to give you guys an idea about Captaincy as well as which fixtures to target. So let's start off with attacking ratings, and these will be from Fantasy Football Fix. Went over to their fixture analyzer, and some of their fixtures might be a little bit spicy. So let's go over the attacking stats first. You guys can see that Nottingham Forest against Sheffield United is the best attacking fixture, but I think the second one, Bournemouth for Liverpool, might be better. We then have Aston Villa of Everton at home, a great fixture on paper. Our owner Ollie Watkins, I'm hoping that I can do well here. But then Fulham come up against Brentford. Then have Sheffield United against Nottingham Forest, so both those two sides. This is saying there might be goals in this fixture because both two sides aren't great defensively, but I'm hoping for a Turner clean sheet. Then the final team is going to be Wolves against Brighton at home, a very weird fixture there. I think that Brighton are a lot better defensively than Wolves are, but they might be favouring the home team here. So that's what I was saying, some of these fixtures are a little bit spicy. I don't exactly know if I agree with all of them, but if I'm worried about the Liverpool vs Bournemouth game. But now let's go over those defensive fixtures. A lot of the fixtures will stay constant. Got Nottingham Forest yet again against Sheffield United, so they rated as the best attacking and defensive fixture. Now I simply don't own any other Nottingham Forest players besides Turner, so if that's going to be enough. We then have Everton at home for Aston Villa as well as Liverpool vs Bournemouth, so if you guys do own Trent, this could be an absolute haul. We then have a reverse of the attacking fixture. We now have Brighton vs Wolves, so this is showing that Wolves attack isn't that strong, but against United, they look pretty decent. Then we have another weird one. West Ham have Chelsea at home, so this shows that Chelsea's attack might not be as strong, but it might be weighted from last season. Then once again we have Sheffield United against Nottingham Forest. This game is either going to have lots of goals or no goals. I'm hoping for the latter. So the one fixture here that I'm very kind of scared of is that Liverpool vs Bournemouth game. I don't own Salah, I don't own Trent, I don't own any Liverpool attackers or defenders, so I don't really know what to expect from this fixture. But I do own an Ollie Watkins luckily, so let's hope that he goes massive, because I do really need him too. But as mentioned, some of these fixtures are slightly weird. We have Wolves with Brighton, but then Brighton against Wolves, so I don't really know how to call that game. But are there any other fixtures that you guys are targeting? What's your prediction for United vs Spurs? Think it's going to be a goal fest or a boring fixture? I just hope for some attacking returns from Bruno and Rashford. Now the final talking point to go over is going to be all about captaincy, and this week it's a pretty interesting debate between Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. Now I should talk about another alternative that you guys can potentially look at. I own him. It's be Ollie Watkins against Everton at home. I think it's quite an interesting debate between him and Erling Haaland because he has the better fixture. Now do I trust Ollie Watkins enough to captain him? Probably not. I think I'll still back Erling Haaland, but this might be quite a close one. But the big debate is going to be Mo Salah or Erling Haaland if you guys do own both of them. I definitely captain Mo Salah though. It's a simple no-brainer for me. If he's in your team, you captain him because that fixture is too hard to ignore. So we get the previous year's result where they won 9-0, Mo Salah got no returns even though they scored 9 goals. This is a different fixture and a different season. So I'm really jealous of you guys if you do own Mo Salah. I think that he's a great captaincy option, the best option in my opinion, and that's why if you have him, do it. Other than that though, as I said, it's between Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland for me. Probably will go safe, go with the effective ownership of Erling Haaland. Let's just see how he performs tonight in the Super Cup. Now if you guys are interested in kind of projected points, the projected points are backing Mo Salah as well, 7.1 compared to 6.0 from Erling Haaland, then Ollie Watkins trails with 4.8. So the fixture is probably telling you to captain Mo Salah, the projected points are, I'm telling you, what can go wrong? I guess we'll wait and see. But comment down below, who's your captain going into Game Week 2? Is it Mo Salah? If you don't own him, who are you going for? Is it Erling Haaland or someone differential? Also interested to see if there are any of you out there that actually own Mo Salah but don't want to captain him. Who are you favoring then? But as mentioned, if you guys do have him, I would definitely captain him, as in my opinion, he's the best option. Now this is going to kind of conclude the talking points, but as mentioned early on, if you guys have any talking points you want me to cover, comment them down below. I reply to every comment, so you guys will get an answer. Otherwise, check me on my Discord server or on my Twitter page at DayvyFPL, where I will also post a reply. But this is basically a wrap of the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for the deadline stream. Otherwise, check my team selection that I released yesterday. But I'm signing off. It's me, DayvyFPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.